What is up, guys? This is All the Smoke on Strength and Physique with your hosts Adam and Chris, where we provide you with evidence-based information, community support, and recognition to all who are bettering themselves with fitness. On this episode, we talk all the smoke with Strength Rehab. What is up, guys? So today we have some amazing individuals from Strength Rehab. They are two individuals that are in their doctorate for chiropractic, and that is going to be something we'd love to cover because I actually personally want to know that, because after I finished my master's, it's something I considered. But Parker, Raul, let's go ahead. Introduce your guys' self. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then each of you can talk about. We got a nose goes right there. I like that. So Raul, you first. Tell us about yourself and why chiropractic.
Dude, I hate Parker. He always makes me go first. but yeah, my name's Axtmayer. I'm a 24-year-old chiropractic student, finally in my last year of school. Did my bachelor's degree in kinesiology. Been a strength coach, personal trainer for around 5 years almost. And that's in a nutshell, who I am. We can talk a little bit later about why DC, but I'll let Parker introduce himself.
I just like to start off and say thank you for the compliment and calling us amazing. I hardly remember to brush my teeth in the morning, so at least somebody believes in me.
Actually, now that you mention that, I don't think I did.
Yeah.
I was going to say, what the hell is that smell, Chris? That's your breath?
I don't know.
This just to give you a little reason why I went the chiropractic route is, being a strength coach and being working with high school athletes. I didn't know where the end of my scope was, because as we all know, performance and rehab are practically the same principles, just with a different goal in mind. And I just didn't want to have handcuffs around my wrists because I'm out of scope or I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to go to school for the extra 3.5 years, just so I have the world as my oyster.
Explain who the hell you are, Parker. You forgot about that.
Exactly.
Oh, right. See, that's why I always have Raul go first, because usually this is my go-to blanket statement. Like, yeah, we're same thing. But I guess that doesn't work when we're introducing yourselves. My name is Brandon Parker. I got my undergrad in exercise science with my man here, Adam. I would say that in hindsight, I wish I took up more opportunity, because I didn't realize how surrounded or how stacked Tampa is with just great minds. But hindsight's 2020, and I just like sports performance, and I like coaching people, not necessarily like, hey, let's get stronger, but more so the lifestyle adaptations behind it.
Awesome.
Nice.
All right. So that's exactly one of the things I'm looking into is chiropractic care, because there's so much issues with pain, corrective exercise, or however you guys prehab, whatever you guys want to consider it. And it's sort of outside of my scope if someone's having tingling within their hand. I've never covered nerves in my master's. So that's something I know tingling is partly nerve, but I mean, you guys can answer this. I don't know if you're supposed to stop exercise immediately if you feel tingling, or continue unless it starts to get worse, or I think chiropractic's amazing. Raul, do you want to touch on why you decided to go that route?
Absolutely. Ever since high school, I knew I wanted to be involved in healthcare. I was in between PT school and chiro school. And after doing some research, I concluded that being a doctor of chiropractic gives you a bigger scope, and you don't need to depend on physicians' referrals. You're basically considered a primary care physician, at least in Florida. So I was like, why not? Gives me a bigger scope. I can treat more people. I don't got to depend on other people, and it's better for business. So I just did it.
That's really smart.
But more or less same reasons. Yeah, I wanted to have a bigger scope of practice. Like, for example, we're coaches, somebody gets injured training under us. I want to treat that person. I don't want to refer him out. So might as well do it.
Yeah, no. And I definitely think that's the safest approach to go. And was it before strength? Where'd you guys meet each other? In your program, or?
It's a funny story, but yeah, in your program.
Okay. Tell us about the story.
It was a Friday, the Friday before starting school. And I was sitting right, and here comes Parker with his girlfriend, and he just sits down. I'm talking with my roommate, and he's like, "Hey, my name's Parker. This is my girlfriend Amy, and here's my number. I don't know absolutely what's going on. I never know what's going on. So here's my number. Tell me what you gotta do." And I told my roommate, I was like, "Dude, I'm never gonna talk to that guy. He's so irresponsible." Here I am 2 years after building a business with him. But yeah.
So why the business? That leads us into our next topic, Strength Rehab. Why was that started? What do you guys plan to accomplish with that?
You want to attack that, Parker?
Yeah, I mean, you just clean up anything I will inevitably miss or not mention. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like we all know when you go through Instagram, you see all this mindless, there's no nuance, there's no critical thinking when it comes to the information that's being put out. And it typically leads to either people being in more perpetuated pain or they're just not getting results in the gym because, like, for example, let's just talk about RPE. RPE is very subjective, and I think it's one of the latest and greatest ways to lift. But without any type of critical thinking or perspective, people are now not even training nearly as hard as they used to because they're afraid that they're overtraining. Because, we talk about don't hit a 10 unless, we're getting close to peaking and stuff like that. So it just in a nutshell, just basically like, look, we both have the mindset and the opportunity to spread good information. So why don't we do it? And I don't want to sound pompous, but the academic side here at chiropractic, it isn't as tedious as people make it out to being. So we're sitting here twiddling our thumbs. Why don't we do something that's positive and have a long lasting benefit,
So what you're telling me is because I've been considering it, if I get accepted, it'll be easy and I can just twiddle my thumbs.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Parker, did you do your master's at USF as well?
No. So what I did was interesting enough. So I have a mentality of like, I like to put myself in really bad situations. So like, I can't really complain when I'm in a good situation. So after I graduated with Adam here, I had about a 3-4 month gap before chiropractic school started up. I could have took the quarter. I could have took the quarter before because it's rolling admissions, but I said, no, let me get some money. So what was the best paying job? It was a graveyard shift at a warehouse distribution center where I was just throwing cases of alcohol onto thing. My job was from, I think, 4 p.m. to whenever we finished. Sometimes it was 7 a.m. And I'll tell you what, I see the people that work there and they worked there for 40 years and they don't complain, and it's a really bad job. So me going to school, I have literally nothing to complain about.
All right. That's awesome. Raul, do you think anything could be covered on that about Strength Rehab?
Yeah, basically the end goal was to share the information because not a lot of people in our school have our same mentality and our same knowledge and beliefs. And we just started talking a lot. We saw that we had similar beliefs, similar end goals, and we were like, hey, we might as well do something to share the information with people that might benefit from it. So yeah, we started. But if you see our content, it was way different than what it is right now. But yeah, it's that we can get into the details of what we want to do in the future. But yeah, that's basically the why behind Strength Rehab. It's just education.
Let me ask you guys one question. So you guys I've heard you guys talk about it, and I've heard numerous other doctoral students in either physical therapy or chiropractic. What is the most difficult thing that, it seems that educational systems just don't want to progress forward? Right. You guys just are taught to be generalists, taught to pass an exam. What's the most difficult thing paying for that education, sitting in that classroom and knowing sometimes this is outdated? What are you guys trying to do with Strength Rehab to hopefully, change the game?
Yeah. I personally believe that, we can indeed make a change in the chiro profession, and that's our goal with our seminars. We want to teach seminars, etc. But I also believe that if we want to change the profession, it's the educational system that has to change. Like their curriculum has to change, but we both know that that's honestly not going to happen. Just because how it is, politics, the boards, you got to pass the boards exam, those are also outdated. But if we can make at least a slight change in the profession, we're going to do it. And that's why we're making and banking all of this content and creating future seminars just to try and change how people see rehab and fitness and pain one day at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, I would completely agree with that. The big thing is it starts with the institution, right? And if we're grading the institutions on how well they get people to pass the boards, then it goes to the boards, right? So it's either we change how we grade how well an institution is run, or we change the actual boards themselves, and they base all their information off of outdated textbooks. So I guess, like, where are we starting, right? Are we starting with the textbooks? Are we starting with the boards? Are we starting with the schools? But at the end of the day, they all need to be corrected, because we all know how important it is to connect with somebody and be genuine in front of them. We don't have a class on that. We have a quote unquote psychology class where we covered bulimia. I think that's the only thing I remember. And you know what I'm saying? I got an A in it. I got an A in that class, but I'll tell you, that's all I remember. So that tells you how pointless that class was. How can we drive home points where, when they're in the real world, they have this readily accessible information? So that is the hard part, where when I'm trying to teach somebody, or I'm trying to explain something that they didn't grasp in lecture, I'm like, okay, well, just think about it. This person walks into your office, you see this, this, and this. They go, oh, I never thought about it like this. Dude, you're going to be dealing with this in a couple of years. If you just let this go over your head, now you're negligent and there's malpractice. But people don't think like that, and they stay in their bubble of, I really hope there's a lumbar sprain coming my way, because 90% of them will get better without me even touching them. You know what I'm saying? So that's the frustration right there. Is just, we're not getting prepared to be real life practitioners. We're getting prepared to circle A, B, C, or D. You know what I'm saying?
Now, so with obviously what you guys do as Strength Rehab, one, how the hell do you guys have the time to do it while you are in a doctoral program, even though you said you guys twiddle your thumbs? And then two, what are you guys doing to kind of, stay up to date too with the latest and greatest information that is out there, other than, being in school?
Mm-hmm.
I would say, for number one, it's all about time management and priorities. We knew that we wanted to move the company or the business or the whatever Instagram forward, and we just committed. We started doing what we could. At the time, it was, I believe we started doing like one post per day, per week. Then we did two, then we did three. Now we do like almost every day except Sunday. I would say it's all about priorities. If I had a break if I had like a 2-hour break between classes, I was gonna study those 2 hours, because then when I was finished with school, I could do my research, I could go lift, I could film content. I mean, it's not bad, but it's all about time management, because as Parker said at the beginning, school is not hard. It's just a lot of busy work. But if you put in the time, 1 or 2 hours every single day, it makes it so easy. Like the day before exams, you're like, I don't gotta study for that because I already know it. It's all about time management. That would be my biggest thing. I don't know, Parker.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would put on top of that is the way we time managed our content is, all right, dude, it's the end of the quarter. We got to record for next quarter. What time is it? Okay, it's 2 a.m. in the morning. You want to go film these things? We would just go to the local gym and we would just crush content. So we had this massive vault of ideas and already recorded things. So if we are brain dead or we lack creativity, we have this brain trust that we already created. That being said, we get inspired and we put something out that week that we recorded that time. But it's time management. Batch all the things that you can batch together, and then just keep on rolling. I mean, you're not going to tell a powerlifter, hey, make time to work out. He's going to make time. You know what I'm saying? So it's, how important is it to you?
Exactly. And sacrifices, because we always say that it's easy, but it takes a certain amount of sacrifice. At the end of the quarter, let's say we finished our quarter today, that night at 12 a.m., 1 a.m., we were at the gym busting our ass, just filming content till like 3 a.m. just to go on with our lives. So even though it's easy, it does take some sacrifice. You just got to do it.
Have you guys ever been sleep drunk? You ever been in that circumstance where like you're just sleep deprived and like everything's funny and nothing's really going through your mind, like you're fried?
I think I've seen people. I was about to say, I think I've seen people, but like when I'm tired, man, like my body shuts down. Like I can't focus. I can't read. I can't scroll through Instagram. Like my eyes, if I'm on my phone, it'll just see you later, Chris. Like it's done.
Yeah, you don't want to be around me if I don't get at least my 6 hours. That's all I can say.
I just recall there's times where we're like, we're deep into recording this content. It's like 2 a.m. and just like, I'll just look at him and we'll just both just break into laughter because we just both look at so distraught, so run down. And like, we don't know what the hell we're doing. We never know what the hell we're doing. We're one step ahead, but that one step we planned is a really shitty step. I'll tell you that, like it's just like, all right, here's our plan. And then it gets thrown out the window because it was half cooked anyways,
I think that's one of the biggest things I've had issues with. And it goes back to just making it a priority. Because since I've finished my master's, I've been more on top of posting content, making content. I started a YouTube page trying to really push a ton of exercise demonstrations out on that, just so I can provide my clients with how to do it the way I want them to do it. But it's time management. I don't think a lot of people realize that. And it goes for pain management, goes for nutrition, it goes for anything health or fitness related. If you want anything to be a priority, for example, your kids, some people don't make their kids a priority. Most people make their kids a priority. It's really up to you on what you want to accomplish. Do you have any other things to add on that, Adam?
No, I actually just want to ask one more, another question though, to kind of, hit the thing going. Because obviously, right, when I see you guys, I don't see you guys as typical chiro people. And then maybe that's my bias from, hey, I want to be a physical therapist and things of that nature. But when I think of chiro, I think of, hey, I got to put my hands on you. I got to pop you here. You got to see me every week or every month. You guys are doing it different. And in essence, like I said, you couldn't even tell you're a chiro. Why are you guys doing it different? And second, what is like, how are you managing it then? Because again, if somebody comes to you as a chiro, they're expecting their hands to be, or your hands to be on them. How are you, I guess, communicating with whatever processes it is to that patient or client?
Before we reply to that question, do you want us to reply to number 2 of the last question about how we stay up to date with the latest information or not?
Yeah, let's
totally
do that.
Forgot about it.
Yeah, let's do that one. Let's do that.
Hey, I forgot too.
Yeah, I mean, I always recommend just to subscribe to different journals. There's a lot of good applications out there. The Pedro database, and numerous different other ones that they just send you weekly or monthly research, and that's enough because it's a lot of papers. I would say that follow good accounts on Instagram. The guys you had evidence-based movements. There's a lot of different doctors that just crush it and post daily research. And number 3, just surrounding yourself with the right people. We used to do like one call every single Saturday about differential diagnosis, and someone comes with hip pain. What are all of the different things that it can be with evidence, obviously. And I would say it just find whatever works for you. But those are my number 3 tips: just subscribing to journals, following the right people, and surrounding yourself with the right people.
Ditto.
Now we can move on to the other question, which Parker will answer.
Well, yeah, so you're going to have to remind me of the question. But before we get into that question, I have a question. Okay, so it's my turn. Okay, so Chris, you did mention that you wanted to go into chiropractic, and, you are post-masters now. I'm just curious, so what's the plan? Like, why chiropractic, and why, or haven't you made the jump yet, or why are you thinking about making the jump?
So I'm strictly considering, and that's another thing I was going to touch on. Adam mentioned you guys are sort of looking to do things differently. And that was the reminder on his question. I love that. I don't think chiropractic care should just be like, oh, come in, get adjusted, etc. Because I've been in that. That might be like a negative stigma for you guys. In my eyes, I think that's the wrong way to go about chiropractic care. And I was stuck in that cycle with someone. I don't know if he was just doing it as like a side gig or what he was doing it as, but then I had looked and saw out for another chiropractor, and it was a world of a difference. When he did his initial assessment, he asked tons of questions about things that I wouldn't even think he was going to be asking, and it helped my plan of care so much. And back to sort of what you said, Parker, I don't want to be limited my main focus is getting people with my flow athletics, getting people programming knowledge that they won't have if they don't go pay for a coach, and just putting accurate information out there. So like making sure you have a well-balanced program, because something I'm still trying to correct myself on from years of working out without understanding of a balanced program is I was not doing pulls all throughout high school. So like my rear delts, so undefined, so underdeveloped compared to my front delts. Still trying to work on that before I consider going into a competition, but just not being limited is something I want to seek out. And I think I can do that with that, because that's going to explain a whole different knowledge based on pain, based on how to approach those situations, and just think of it in a different aspect.
Gotcha. Hey, just to give you to make you feel a little bit better, because there's misery in company, or misery loves company, is I used to run the Smavlov's squat program, but I said, you know what, I'm gonna do it for bench press. And I remember getting maybe like 3 weeks in, and like halfway through the bench set, my right delt, rear delt would just cramp so hard, and I remember it to this day. The bar literally just came crashing down onto my sternum. And I just laid there. I was motionless, right? And the spotter was just so shook, because the rep before I moved it easily. And we just had this, I felt like an eternity, but we just made eye contact and nothing was said. And to the point was like, you're going to get this bar off me, right? And he goes, oh, yeah, I'll get this bar off of you.
So is that where you sort of like realize like, wow, I got to change things up a little, or I got to look further into this?
Yeah, it's kind of like this thought process where you're like, all right, for rows, we know the rear delt is incorporated with that movement, right? Well, the thought process was, oh, I do a lot of rows, I'll cover this, right? Clearly not, So it was, to the end of the day, it was either I was overworking the rows, or I was just undertraining the rows completely, and I thought I was killing it, and I just did too much bench press, where I just became overly adapted to that movement. I mean, like, I think it was like you bench 4 times. Well, you would do the exercise 4 times a week. And like, there was an easy, intermediate, and hard day. And, this is for geared lifters. Like, they have like high levels of testosterone through their body. But of course I'm like, hey, I'm young, I got this. I didn't have this, people. I did not have this.
Yeah. So my experience and what like made me click is that second time around with that chiropractor. The reason why I looked him up, looked for a different route or a different approach, is because I was having shoulder pain, and it was the rear shoulder. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know, you guys can correct this if you want, but it felt like impingement. I don't know if impingement syndrome is permanent, or if you can correct it. Is it permanent or no? No. So the approach he took was a lot of thoracic mobility, stuff like that, but also focusing on a balanced approach. He was like, how often do you work your rear delts? And I'm like, what? I'm like, you have to work your rear delt? You can't see that though. Or maybe I was like, what's a rear delt? I don't know.
Right.
So that's where it clicked for me. My whole life, I wasn't doing rows, nor was I doing anything overhead pressing. So it was just mind blowing that it took me up until my undergrad to figure that out. It was very frustrating, but it's not something I want anyone else to go through. So that's why I put out information like I do. I'm trying to brainstorm a way for people to make their own programs a very smart way. So like if you don't have anything that covers your back, something gets thrown like a red flag.
Right.
Still can't figure out how I'm going to do this, but that's why I want to go into chiropractic care, because I had an injury that was due to a lack of knowledge on my program, and it could have been easily corrected.
Right. I mean, I don't recall the initial question, Adam. I don't know if you do, but if you would remind us, that'd be great.
Yeah. So like when I see you guys, and I guess I can gloat a little bit, man. I remember when you guys first started this, I would give you a lot of credit for continuously doing it for, what is it, almost 2 years now? So props to y'all for doing that shit, because I know it's hard. Right? When I think of a chiropractor, I think somebody's going to put their hands on me, and somebody's going to pop my back, and I'm going to come see them to pop my back every week, every month, however that time course is going to be. But you guys aren't doing that. You guys are, again, exercise prescription, lifestyle changes. things that are, up to date. And I would say the literature and I think the culture shift that is happening, but right, a lot of people's mindsets aren't caught up yet. How are you communicating to your patients or your clients that, hey, I'm not here to just put my hands on you. I'm here to do whatever you guys are trying to do. How are you guys going about that?
Like it's almost like you were in my head or you were around me when this happened, because I have a great story. It's completely humbling. And yeah, I'll share it. So basically, I had a young 13-year-old gymnast come into the office that I specifically picked it because I was like, I've never worked with this population. You only hear things about them, so I'm going to give it a shot, right? And, in the fact that we are in a chiropractic clinic that's affiliated with Palmer, and these people have been going to Palmer students for the last year or so, they expect a certain thing. And if you don't give them that certain thing, they'll leave, period. You're a chiropractor, I want this. So you have to find that balance where you're still giving them something, but then you kind of sneak in your advice, because we know at the end of the day, I can pop your back. You're going to feel good for right now, and then you're back to square one again. And I don't think that's where you should be paying me my money. I think you should be paying me for the fact that I've dedicated my life to this, and I know the most efficient route to get you back to where you need to be. But back to the story, I did all my orthos. She was clear on everything. It seemed like a lumbar strain because it was either a lumbar strain or we're talking about a load management case. She's a young girl. She went to the gym 3 hours for each time, 4 times a week. So this girl's crushing it as a gymnast. It's a high impact sport, right? And the mechanism of injury was she fell on her back, right? Well, if we're just playing odds at how young she is and how often she does this sport, she's a dense person. She's probably hasn't really fractured anything. The fact that she's coming in and she can't localize any type of pain, most likely some sort of lumbar strain of some sort. So I looked at the dad and I said, look, I think it's this, this, and this. How's your stress? How's your diet? All the 3 pillars of recovery, right? Like stress, diet, and sleep. Sleep was okay. Stress was not like, all right. And then they said like, oh, well, you know what? We haven't been eating that much because we're always on the go. It's like, well, if you're not giving the construction workers the materials they need to build a house, is that house going to be built? No. But I guarantee, so I couldn't have this conversation until I attempted to crack her back. So I give you an idea. So first, I just went for the neck. I was just like, let's see how the neck is going. Let's see how it's moving. Dude, just picture the most flexible thing you've ever seen. I don't want to send anything into the stratosphere right now. So I'm like, okay, neck is fine. Let's go to the thoracics. Can you flip over for me? And then I put my hands on her back, like feathers. And I said, can you breathe in and breathe out for me? She's breathing out on her way down. I didn't put any additional like stress on her back. Everything went. Okay. So I don't think you need this either. So let's go ahead and let's have a great time and try the lumbars because we're 0 for 2 already. And let's just add to this trifecta. I put her in the traditional side posture that everyone should know if they went to a chiropractor. They're laying on their side, and we just put a little bit of twist into the lumbar spine and pop, 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 right? Well, she's a gymnast, right? So I put her in the traditional one, no end in sight. I'm like, okay, let's just modify this a little bit more. Let's go ahead and just have you lay completely flat on your back, and I'm just going to bring your legs over. Once again, literally no end in sight. So as a traditional chiropractor, you might be scratching your head. And rightfully so, because we are only trained with a certain amount of tools, adjustments and soft tissue work, where you just strip out the area. Those are the big 2 things. I mean, older patients might get flexion distraction, but that's a whole nother story. The idea here is nothing worked. Now I'm in a position of not authority, because like now I look like a scrub. But I looked at him, I said, look, as you can see, she clearly doesn't need this. I think it's this, this, and this. And he seemed very receptive. I did tell him this. I said, I would like to see her next week just to see how her progress is. And I swear to you, I ran to the computer to check if he actually made that appointment, because I was like, this guy is not coming back. But luckily enough, they made another appointment. I think I established a connection through honesty. And I think that's what I was getting at to answer the question traditionally is we have to at least build a buy-in before we try to change their beliefs. Because if I'm just some hotshot student like, that's stupid, we ain't going to do that, they're like, all right, there's 100 other interns here, we don't need to hear from you. I hope that answered your question in a long roundabout way.
No, definitely. I think, right, you said it. You got to have that buy-in, because if you wanted to be that know-it-all and say, nah, this, and this, sometimes you have to give the client or patient everything they want just to show them, hey, this is nothing that you need.
Exactly.
And again, I always say there's beauty in the struggle, and going through that learning experience shows you how much I know, and it shows the client how much I care.
Right.
And I think if you don't go that route, I think both of us are doing you a disservice. Now, Raul, do you have anything similar, or why you guys go different approach? Because again, I've talked to many chiros and I've talked to many PTs, and I slap myself in the face sometimes. I'm like, what? So again, props to you for being not normal. But why? Why is that?
So why behind it is that we know what's best for people, and we want to give them that. And we know that spinal manipulation is not the best thing for you or your pain. As Parker said, getting patients buy-in is indeed important, but you can get that buy-in in a million different ways. I do it with exercise. For example, you're coming in with rhomboid pain, like pain in between your scaps. I've had like 4 patients so far with the same pain. I give them the same exercise, and all of them are like, "Oh my gosh, it doesn't hurt." And after that, do you think you need spinal manipulation? No, maybe not. But yeah, we're doing it different because we're trying to change the narratives behind chiropractic. We know it's almost impossible, but we gotta at least start somewhere. And if I know what's best for you, I'm gonna try and educate you on what is best for you so that you can have better outcomes. And one thing that's super important for pain treatment is self-efficacy. If you're doing everything for the patient, you are not helping them improve their self-efficacy, and instead you're making it worse. So we're just huge into education, empowerment. We believe it's the way to go in regards to spine pain, and that's what the evidence says so far. And as I said, if we know what's best for you, we're gonna try and point you and direct you in that direction, basically.
So this will lead us into our next topic, and something I even asked Adam, like, what are you trying to cover by that? Because this is something that we're not taught in our master's, pain science. We're not taught pain. We're not taught how to address it. We're taught how to look at like the 3 main pillars. Is the recovery, nutrition good? So tell us, give us direction on that, and what your guys' opinion is on that, or what we should even know about it.
Yeah, I guess like when it comes to this conversation, Raul and I, like, where Raul knows how how I feel about this content is because it's such a complex subject that even if we nail it, when you go back to the practical application of things, it just gets real simple, and it's kind of just a couple things you can do. And just I like to always think about it like this. When you're dealing with somebody that is like an ultra marathoner, their pain tolerance is through the roof. Why? Is because they're almost like sadists. They're running mile after mile after mile, and they have all this lactate build up, and they're burning, right? Well, why do they experience pain less than somebody else? They're the same human being, right? Maybe from the same even cultural background, but it's just basically perspective. And I think perspective is huge, and perspective can be given through doing something like sports, or something like a doctor giving them validation, saying, hey, I know you're in pain, and I know I think I know what you have right now. Expect this timeline and you should be fine. Both of those perspectives will decrease pain tremendously. So that's what I would say is just like, from somebody that doesn't need to be a clinician, just understand what they're dealing with. I guess you would have to get it diagnosed by somebody that is a physician. But once you understand the pathology and the timeline behind it, it just goes back to simple strength and conditioning principles if you want to treat it like so. And that's just, where's your square one where you have no pain and, well, moderate pain, because we like to be on the cusp, and how can we progress it without making the pain worse? I'm trying to use big words and I can't even say them. Look at me.
I know you're exacerbating.
Okay, we're all on the same page. We just can't say it. But yeah, just saying, like, so in my 2 big points would just be like, educate them saying like, hey, you're going to be feeling wonky for a little bit, but you can walk, you can do these exercises, and then just kind of just meet them where they are at, meet them where they're at. You got anything else, Raul?
I mean, yeah, there's a million things we can say about pain. I don't know what specifically you'd like to know, but even though pain science is not an intervention by itself, I believe it's important, at least for chiros or doctors, to know a little bit about what pain is and what it's not. It is an experience, so it's subjective, obviously. But there's not a cookie cutter approach to explaining pain to patients. I do not try to explain like, hey, this is pain and this is not pain. But something that I've been doing and I've been practicing more is that, hey, after doing all of your history, all of your exams, blah, 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 this is what you don't have. Like, you should not be worried about having this, and this. What you have is this type of pain, or whatever pain, if it's an acute, chronic, that it depends on a lot of million factors. But so you shouldn't be worried about this. And you have this type of pain, and this is 10, 15 ways we can address it. Like, what would you prefer? Because pain, dude, you can do anything, and anything works in the right context.
Right.
So it's all about setting the right expectations. But I like to address it. Like, I don't tell them like, pain is not this, pain is not that. I just tell them like, hey, shouldn't be worried about having this type of quote unquote bad pain, because your pain is something normal. And that's like okay, I shouldn't be worried about it then. I expectations and context, and you can get anyone better.
I totally agree. So now, is it in chiro school, are they teaching you more like that biopsychosocial model, or what are they
exist.
Model? It doesn't exist.
I mean, chiro, like, they're going to teach you that pain is due to subluxations 90% of the time.
Yeah.
It's a strictly biomedical program. But what we know about pain is just outside research and asking people, but no biopsychosocial approach here.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So go into a little bit more detail, right? You get an MRI. Somebody's got 3 or 4 bulging discs, right? He's got pain, but shoot, I'm a power lifter. I have a rounded back when I deadlift. Maybe I have 5 or 6 bulging discs, but no pain. Why, and what is the issue with that?
Number one, it depends on the patient, right? But even though we see that you have an X amount of bulging disc in your MRIs, we have absolutely no idea if your pain is due to that bulging disc. We know that depending on the age, but even young people like us in the 20s, 30% of us have bulging discs, and we have no pain. So why do I have pain if I have a bulging disc, but why does Parker doesn't have pain if he has a bulging disc? And as I said, I don't like to say or tell them like, hey, that's causing your pain and your symptoms. It might be attributing to your pain experience, yes, but once again, here are some things that we can do, because in reality, as I said, there's absolutely no way of knowing why a person has pain on the first place. I mean, yeah, a lot of things affect it, and you can explain the biopsychosocial model and approach, which I love to do, but it's just very not true to say like, hey, your pain is due to that. I don't know if that makes sense. And obviously, if they're like highly intellectual people, you can share some of the research with them, but not everybody wants or likes research. So that's obviously something that you can't do with every single patient that comes through your door.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's great, because again, like you said, we all have to have that individualized approach. But I think, even with school, right, they teach you how to almost think inside of a box. But if you can't get uncomfortable and almost go through that experience, it's really difficult.
Something related to these bulges examples or whatever is that you can basically tell them with 100% certainty almost that they are going to be fine, because if you see the research, even the worst type of bulging disc, they recover with time without needing surgery or any sort of treatment. So it's like, hey, I know that you have this, and that's where your MRI or whatever tells you, but if you wait and you have patience and blah, 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 you are going to be fine, because 99% of people don't need surgery or treatment. So there's a million ways to attack the question, but that's a couple of ways that you can address it.
Gotcha. Nice. No, I'm going to keep hitting you with questions that I know that sometimes, or most of the time, is going to be like, it depends. But for a program perspective, right, you guys are all about, I think, again, thinking outside of the box from a chiropractor or a traditional chiropractor. what are those like top 3, 4, 5 movements that you feel every individual should be doing in their program or just for daily activities of living?
So with we had a cool guy on, Jim Eubanks, who was a chiropractor who went into MD and is now becoming a medical doctor officially. I think he's in his residency, but I'm not too sure. We started to talk about central canal stenosis. Long story short, the cord itself is being kind of crushed by the bone itself, and I would say that's much worse than what we talk about with IBDs being herniated, right? Or disc being herniated. And I asked him, I was like, okay, so these people have this huge problem where their cord is actually being compressed. What do we do? Like, they always have to go get surgery? And he goes, no, most of them just adapt. He's like, what do you mean? He's just like, well, you just keep exercising and then it's almost like they don't have it. So some people have it and they have no clue at all. So when you hear something like that, and of course, like, he didn't even put anything, like any type of context on exercise, because it doesn't matter, right? Because like it's just movement in general, and we're just utilizing the legs, right? Let's just say the compression's lower in the spinal cord. Just using the legs is basically having us adapt to the stimulus that we need, right? To answer your question, all right, we have this technique called McKenzie. Long story short, when they have low back pain, we just start getting them into the motion that they don't want to be. So let's say they don't want to extend backwards. We just find a roundabout way to get them to go slightly backwards, right? But they kind of put it into the big 3, which is like McKenzie press ups, McKenzie side planks off the wall, and long story short. But what I'm getting at is, they learn this system instead of utilizing the principle. Is find these movements that's provocative, regress them enough so they can do it, and just build it right back up again. So instead of it being just an athlete who can't perform the exercise due to some sort of reason, whether it be just like improper, like the exercise doesn't fit their biomechanics, or they're just not strong enough to fit the technique, we find a way, or we create an environment around the athlete so they can self-organize to do that exercise, right? It's the same exact thing with rehab. Instead of it being more pounds on the bar, which inevitably will happen with rehab, it's more so, how are you feeling? Are you feeling good? Okay, let's progress the stimulus, maybe not through weight, but just more stress on the anatomical structure that we want to create resilience within. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. That was a great explanation. But now let's say, because I'm that SOB, that man, I don't want to. I'll fight through the pain. I want more load on the bar. Now, how are you, I guess, reeling in somebody that just doesn't want to listen, or just, hey, I rather, instead of going 0 to 10, I want to go 0 to 100, like that impatient person? Because now, nowadays we live in that instant gratification world. It's like, hold up, this week I feel really good, but now I feel like crap. Like, how are you explaining that process to somebody?
I have it sounds terrible, but this is one of the methods that I like to use. It's called the bait and switch. Kind of like, they want to push intensity, right? And, they don't want to feel like they're losing gains. Not only could you meet them and say, like, look, it takes a very minimal amount of work to maintain strength and muscle mass, but you can also just give them a separate exercise that they can just drive intensity through the roof, and they feel like they're still making steady progress. And in the meantime, they're not pissing off the previous injury that they came in here with. So for example, I had somebody that had a low back pain issue, and it was due to low bar squats. Okay. So instead of doing low bar squats, we tried all the variations, but it seemed like he adapted well to goblet squats. So, okay, let's just drive it. We'll just drive that stimulus as much as we can. But while we do that, I need to have that switch, or the bait, right? So what am I going to bait him with? All right, well, I just basically said, like, all right, well, you really want to build that bench press, right? Let's go ahead and just take the volume down on the lower body, because we know that makes you real tired. I want you nice and fresh, so when it's time to bench, you can pull the trigger. And he goes, that makes a lot of sense. Wow, that great. Yeah, we're just going to do a block of it. 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. That's all you need in order for you to recover from most injuries. So it sounds kind of like Jedi mind tricky, ninja-ish, and it doesn't sound, kind of scummy. I don't know. It sounds kind of scummy, but I don't mean it. I don't mean it like that, and it works out. It works out into my favor.
It's the thing that where you give the client what they want, but you also do what they need as well.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. What about you?
I like that approach. I probably will use that going forward. Sort of, oh, your lower body has been really, your knee's been really bothering you. Okay, let's do a lighter load exercise. And what about your bench? You said that you've been sort of lacking in that lately. That's smart. I like that.
The bait and switch, baby. Bait and switch.
All I can think of now is that Up movie with the dog. He's a squirrel. That's all I can think of right now.
Raul, how would you attack that?
How would I attack? Well, I forgot the question in the first place, dude.
I just mesmerized you with my speech.
You just talk a lot. No, just kidding. Go ahead.
No, so like some individuals like myself, it's more like, hey, I just want more weight on the bar. I don't care about, that process that everyone talks about. Hey, it's 0 to 10, 10 to 20. I want to go 0 to 100, especially nowadays that we live in an instant gratification world that, hey, it should only take me a week, right? I'm feeling good this week. So next week I should be able to hop right back into it. But now 2 weeks later, I feel like complete crap. How are you explaining that approach or those symptoms to somebody?
I mean, if it's someone like you that likes to go 0 to 100 real quick, and I know that you're an athlete, so probably your training threshold is probably pretty damn high. I would tell you, okay, go hard on the gym, but if 24 hours you still have those symptoms, it's time to regress a little bit. It's okay to have symptoms the day after, but if they go more than a day, then you know that you probably did a little bit too much too soon. That's an easy way to explain it, because we don't want to work super hard that we injure ourselves more, but we also don't want to work with too light load and no intensity at all. It's kind of like a sweet spot of what we're aiming for, because we still need adaptation, so we still need to train hard enough. But that's what I would do on that situation. But obviously, it depends on different million factors and who the client is.
Right.
I totally agree. And this has been a great conversation. So I want to ask, what are those kind of rehab exercises that, you guys feel like everyone should do? Or again, that's something that, hey man, it's a wash. Or again, I know with evidence-based movement, I ask, hey, what's a proper warm-up? Because that's something I get all the time. And for me, it's like, okay, I just walk on the treadmill 10 minutes. Just for me, that's more of like, hey, let's get my mind right. And then I go ahead, whatever modality exercise I'm going to do and kind of, work up to a top set, then back off. But for you guys, hey, what's a good warm up? And if anything, prehab, rehab, stretches, what are those quote unquote go-tos? Or you think, hey, these are somewhere, this is a good foundation to start at?
Yeah.
You hit it. In regards to the warm up, let's say, for example, if the main movement of the day is a bench press, I'm doing a bench press for warm up. It's quote unquote specific. It's the most specific warm up you'll get. If I got to work instead at 200 pounds, I start 50% of that. I progress, maybe throw some speed sets there, and that's what I do. I don't do any fancy exercises before, and that's literally my warm up every single day. If I have a squat, I'm squatting as a warm up, just lighter loads. Play with tempos. That's all I do. I don't like complicated, fancy, or foam rolling things that people like to do a lot. And before Parker answers the other part, I don't think there's a must exercise in regards to prehab and rehab. It's one of those it depends answers. It depends on your goals and whatever. But general strength training is the best quote unquote prehab that you can do, because the data is pretty clear that the stronger you are, the less prone you are to get injured. So I would say anything that makes you stronger is the must.
Yeah, I would just say, like, if we just treat, it doesn't matter what your sport is, but if you just looked at yourself like an athlete, like, what am I trying to get? Let's just say it's just putting on muscle. Well, what do I need to do to prepare myself to reach the highest levels of intensity of that day? So let's just say I'm really trying to turn up for my lats, right? Like, I want to really get a good pump in. Well, okay, so I just need to do things that are going to make it so my lats are pulling at its optimal strength, right? So whether that be a proper warm up with, I'm in the same boat. I would just do the exercise at a lighter intensity. But if somebody that likes to, throw some pizzazz on their warm up, we just think about it like this. Like, my goal is to do X, Y, and Z. What can I do in a small and concise way to achieve the best results while trying to hit that goal. Now, whether I'm going to be right here with Raul is like, do you need a foam roll? No. But if you're the type of person that knows that they can't hit 405 on squat unless they foam roll, do it. But let's have a conversation afterwards, because the psychological mind, like psychology, it will trump physiology day in and day out. If you don't think you can hit something, you're not going to hit it, you know? So once again, it does depend. If there's any exercises that everyone needs to do, you need to look at your program and you got to see, one, is this attaining my goal? And two, is there any holes in while I try to obtain this goal? A lot of people get way too specific with their programs and they just burn out very quickly. And they're like, why am I not reaching my goal? Well, we're probably taxing the system and not letting it recover. And two, now let's say you got to where you need to be, but now your cardiovascular system's shot, so you can't even recover anyway. So you need to attack your programming from all different facets of fitness if you want to obtain something that's long down the road. It's not like 6 weeks from now, but if I'm training for something a year out, I need to maintain my cardiovascular fitness, if that makes sense, you know?
That's great. Yeah. So I think I'm going to pull the question out of left field a little bit, just to kind of hear your guys' approach to it. So, right, I think one of the more debilitating injuries or things that cause a lot of people pain is low back pain, right? Why do you guys think that is the case? And then is it because, daily occurrence, or is it, how I treat it for clients is, hey, teaching them how to breathe. And specifically, I would like to hear how you guys are teaching individuals proper breathing, proper bracing mechanics, if you guys would.
I just talked my head off. Do you still want me to go?
Go ahead, Parker. I want to hear you
Yes, Parker.
talk. Okay.
Raul wants you to too.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, just to answer, we asked a very knowledgeable friend of ours who, he just got published as well. And he is really big into pain science and whatnot. And we asked him that question and we got a text message about a year later saying, hey, you remember that question you asked me? It still haunts me, because, we don't know. We do not know why the low back is the reason why they are the number one reason why people are debilitated musculoskeletal wise. But to answer the direct question, when it comes to, like, let's say somebody comes in with debilitating low back pain, and we could talk about meeting them where they are and educating them. But if we're just talking about go to step 1, step 2, step 3, find a tolerable movement and let's progress it. And we just got to basically work laterally from there. Like, so if you came in, you can't flex forward. That's the most simplistic thing you do. Let's find a way for you to flex forward, and vice versa. It can be any movement. And we just got to keep stepping and stepping and stepping. Like, well, if you can flex forward, you could do load, sure. Or we can just find a different position that you're not able to do, and then we can progress that as well. It sounds like I'm a broken record, but that's kind of like what rehab is just find where they suck, for lack of better words, and make them not suck.
Raul, what's your input on that?
If we knew why there's so much low back pain or why it exists, we'd be millionaires right now. But no, I believe we don't know. The data is not clear. I mean, if I was share my personal opinion, I believe it has something to do with culture, and people just think that their low back is weak, or I'm sitting too much time, or like I'm fucked up. I don't know. There's no right answer, and that question, it still haunts me as well. Like, why do we have so much low back pain? Why is it not the thoracic spine? Why isn't it the neck? We will never know. But in regards to how to treat it, once again, it depends. It's highly specific. If it's a powerlifter, I'm not going to treat it like if it's a 80-year-old grandpa, right? But that's the beauty about this biopsychosocial approach. Once again, if I was a biomedical chiro, I would just treat the tissue. But if you know the biopsychosocial approach, you can treat the bio, you can treat the psycho, you can treat the social. So there's a lot of different ways that you can attack the problem. But once again, it's highly specific and to the person in front of you. There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, man. I mean, that's all I have for you guys. I think you guys hit most of it on the head, and I always appreciate having a conversation with y'all. And man, I'm excited to see when y'all open your damn business and stuff. So kind of, drop on your IGs or wherever people can find you, your website, or even in your podcast. Let us know, and then we'll definitely put it in the show notes as well.
You want me to do the plug? I always mess up the plug.
Yeah, you just do it. Just do it.
I'll do it. I'm gonna do it. Now here we go. Wait, is it Strength Dot? It's Dot, right? Yeah. All right. Funny story before we add it.
Know?
Well, bro. All right. So I went to a high school football team, and I knocked this presentation out of the park. You know what I'm saying? So I did one of these things. I was talking about just recovery, right? And I was just like, all right, let's be real. I was in high school not too long ago. How many of you get less than 5 hours of sleep? And almost damn near half the team raised their hand. And I was just like, okay, here's literature saying that if you're not getting proper, adequate sleep levels, you're decreasing your 40 time. You're decreasing basically all your combined metrics. So you are actively saying that you do not want to get a college scholarship. Is that what you're telling me? And then everyone would had their heads down. No, I was there too. Anyways, I got their attention. I educated them. They had their minds blown because nobody really talks to the high school level like they should. And
about their rear delts.
And basically what I said was look, I'm here 24/7. You can just hit me up at strength_rehab, not strength.rehab. And so these poor people are probably some poor person is probably getting just random messages that are just hey, how do I squat?
They're not poor anymore. You just sent them a ton of business.
So you can find all our information at strength.rehab on Instagram. And we also have a podcast, which is the Strength Rehab podcast, as if that wasn't forward enough, right? I think the is actually part of the title as well.
Can we get verification?
That's why I roll with me 24/7, because if I just go off the rails and I don't say something, he always cross-checks me. It's a yin and a yang situation. And if you want to reach out to one of us personally, our personal hashtags handles are in the bio. I'm still learning this technology thing, guys. I'm glad that I'm surprised none of you mentioned how bad my webcam is. It looks like I am a potato. I can't believe no one's made fun of it yet.
Your background is honestly giving me ideas of what I should do with mine, because
let's remind our listeners, our 3 listeners, that he's in a closet.
I'm in a closet and I'm sweating. I'm absolutely sweating.
Oh shit.
It's bad in there, yeah.
You usually when we do this, Raul and I are shoulder to shoulder. It's not a big space. You know what I'm saying? This. So I'm touching walls like this. Elbows are bent. So we're shoulder to shoulder. I'm sweating. He somehow is good with it. And I'm praying for me never to have to get the bead of sweat off my forehead. And then the guest is kind of are you sweating? And are you in a closet? Because I'm going to have to be honest.
I'm going to have to be honest.
Can't lie to them. No.
You're already bringing it out for everyone to know. So there's nothing to be embarrassed about.
We got to do. We're college students. We got to do what we got to do.
Exactly.
All right. So you guys have persuaded me to possibly look further into going into chiropractic care. I think it'd probably be extremely beneficial, not only for myself, but I think chiropractors need to take a different approach on how they view care, and sometimes try to do a bait and switch. Raul, do you want to share where we can find your information at, or was that pretty direct right there?
I was pretty direct. I mean, if you find our Strength.Rehab profile, everything can be found there. There's a link to everything.
Can you just tell me I did good, please?
Kinda, sort of, kinda.
Yeah, and I love your guys' link tree. I think you guys have some really good information. Parker, for just for everyone, if you go to their link tree on their Strength.Rehab page, you can get a guide to becoming your own coach if that's something you're interested with, a different approach. Online coaching, if you would like their assistance. Their podcast is there on both Spotify and Apple. Their YouTube exercise bank. If mine is not big enough yet for you, definitely go to theirs, see what different views they have. They'll take a different approach. And also their latest article, what they're trying to focus on, is going to be on that link tree. So I think that's a beautiful setup, guys.
I appreciate it. And thank you for helping us do the shameless plug. I told you I need help.
Hey man, thanks guys for coming on. And like I said, check them out, check us out, and we're all about all the smoke, fellas. See you later.